Okay, I'm very sorry that it's taken me 2 weeks to make this video, but I'm making it now, so whatever. Today is the day that I finally review the incredible Will Grayson by David Levithan and John Green. The first thing I want you to know about this book is that it does have LGBT themes. So if you're homophobic or have problems accepting homosexuality, then you should definitely read this book because it will change your mind completely. And also, you should know that it's biological, it has something to do with the hypothalamus and the size of it, and if you believe otherwise, then you're ignorant. So it's like 2 hours later from when I filmed this originally, but there was so much lag in the original video that pretty much the majority of my reviewing is like me saying something and then skipping forward like a sentence because the lag didn't record or something, and it was too much work to have to deal with that, so I'm just going to redo it. One thing that I was a little bit apprehensive about with this book was the switching point of views, because the book switches between two characters, both named Will Grayson, and then in the middle they meet and blah blah blah, but each chapter is telling the story from the different Will Grayson. So we start out with one, and then the next chapter is a completely different one, and so it kind of goes back and forth. And at first, I was apprehensive about this because I usually have a problem with switching point of view stories. Like, for example, My Sister's Keeper. My Sister's Keeper was an incredible book, but there was like 8 points of view in that book, so it was really hard to enjoy all of them at the same time, because it's easier to get into a book with like 1 point of view because you get to know that character really well, but in books like My Sister's Keeper there were 8 people, so you kind of picked and chose who you liked better, and then you just kept kind of waiting for their part of the story to come back, and then you're kind of bored with everyone else's. But with this book, I have to say that wasn't really an issue. Probably first of all that it was only 2 characters, but I think that the characterization and the voice in this book from both of the characters were so incredible and so different that it was like reading 2 different books, but about the same thing. And so I actually did like the way that this book was written, and that's thumbs up. Another thing I found kind of interesting about this book was that although the main characters and our narrators were the Will Graysons, the book was more about, like, Tiny Cooper, who... Here, I'll read you the excerpt that John Green read in the video that I'm making this a response to. Tiny Cooper is not the world's gayest person, and he is not the world's largest person, but I believe he may be the world's largest person who is really, really gay, and also the world's gayest person who is really, really large. So that, you know, not only is that a fantastic description, but Tiny Cooper is kind of the central character of this story, even though it's narrated by 2 of his friends. So I think that this is a really interesting concept, and I ended up really, really liking that. The final thing that I have to say about this book, and it's something that I say about all of John Green's books, because I'm not exactly familiar with David Levithan's yet. But the thing that I have to say is that it is not a cliche book. And that's something that I really like about this book, and again, in John Green's books in general. Because although they're fantastic books, and some, you know, elements of them are sort of cliche, the story overall kind of takes you by surprise, and it's not like reading something that I've read a million times. Each one of these John Green's books, and this book in particular, is completely unique. And I think that everyone should read it, although I would not recommend it for anyone who is not in high school yet. Great job, David Levithan and John Green. I commend you for your tremendous book, and I hope to see more of both of your writings in the future. Also, just as a side note, although I'm not wearing it right now, I do have 2 Nerdfighter shirts that I could have been wearing, so. I wore this one on my way home from an Owl City concert. DFTBA!